Bill here with 30-Minute Wood Shop. Thanks for joining. Today, I'm going to show you how to turn this stack of wood and this bearing race into a Lazy Susan. Really easy project to do, very straightforward and simple. Only take you a little while, definitely a 30-minute project. Down below I have a number of links to materials in case you don't have boards like this laying around. A link to the bearing race so it's easy to find, a few tools and things you may need, and a link to my blog. So feel free to explore those and make sure you hit like and subscribe. On that note, let's start doing some layout and cutting. Alright, the first thing we need to do on this is we need to joint the edges of this. The faces are pretty smooth, they've been run through a planer before, but when I bought it, the edges are still very rough. So, lots of ways you can do that. You can use a hand plane, you can use a table saw. Today I'm going to use my 6-inch jointer. So let's start making some noise. So one end is jointed, really nice and smooth. Now I'm going to do the other end, and we should be ready to start cutting. Okay, both edges are jointed, faces are pretty smooth. We're ready to start doing some work. Alright, I have these parts marked off at 16¼ inches. Just give me a skosh extra because I'm making this about 16, so when I get it in the bandsaw and make the circle, I'll have just very little bit of waste. So let's start cutting. Alright, so I wasn't totally happy with the glue line that the joiner created on this maple piece. Highly figured maple, so it had some carrot in it. I took it over to the table saw and installed my Forester Woodworker 2, which is a glue line blade. I use it exclusively for making glue lines. Came out perfect. Now I'm going to take these pieces. I had a third piece of wood I was thinking about putting in here. I really don't have to. With all three of these, I got the width I want. I actually have the color differentiation I want. White stripe down the middle, darker on the outsides. So this is going to be perfect. Now let's do is glue it up. Alright, our clamps are off. I got the piece locked down in my wagon vise. And now I have to get rid of some of this squeeze out. I'm going to use two tools. Of course, I'm going to use my card scraper, which is invaluable. But I'm also going to use this modified buck plane. So this is actually a 6-inch buck that I purchased for about 15 bucks. It's an aluminum frame, easy to modify. I basically modified it so that I can use it for trimming flat glue surfaces when you have a lot of glue like this. You can see how fast that works. I love a card scraper, but there are times when this is a much better tool to use. Get a lot of the big stuff off. That way I can go right ahead and hit it with a scraper and be much closer to the finished product. So you can see how fast that happens. Now I hit it with a scraper and I can take it down right where I want it to be. Again, you can see those nice curls coming off. That's how you know the scraper is sharp. If you're not familiar with a scraper, check out my video right here. It's all about how to sharpen a scraper and basically what a scraper is and does. A couple of minutes take to sharpen this thing. I'll tell you what, it's a problem solver in your shop. So let me do this. It'll take me about 10 minutes to get this all flattened out, and I'll be back. Okay, all the glue is scraped off. using my modified plane, which I modified into a bullnose, and my scraper. Great tools, love having them. Now I have to do a little more work on it in terms of sanding. I got to sand it down because there's still some high spots here where it wasn't exactly flush. So we'll be doing that, and we'll make this a nice flush piece. And then I'll take it over to the bandsaw and get it cut out in a nice round, and we'll do some additional work on it. So stand by. I'm not going to bother showing you how to sand because you've seen this a million times, but here goes. Okay, now I have to choose the A side and the B side. A side being the show side, the side I'm going to be showing people, and B side is the side that I want to hide. Sometimes they're so close you don't care. This one has a few little divots here and there. I'm not quite certain what those are from, but this is going to be my B side, so this is the side I'm going to mark. All I'm going to do is put an X here. And the reason I'm putting the X here is to find the center. And once I find the center, I'm going to drop a 1/8 inch drill hole in it. And that's going to be the pivot point that I'm going to use for my bandsaw. So, there's the pivot point. All you need to do is drop it in an 1/8 inch hole, and I'm ready to go. Okay, this happens to be a four-sided punch. Basically, all I do is push it into the center, wiggle it around a couple times, and sharp edges of the four sides make a really nice starter hole. That way my drill is not walking all over the place when I try and drill. I'm only putting a small hole here. Just enough for my my small screw to fit in and create the pivot point. Let's go over to the bandsaw. Actually, before we hit the bandsaw, I wanted to show you my bandsaw circle cutting jig. There's a lot of really cool ones out there, very complex, a lot of stuff going on. Hey, you don't need all that stuff. You don't have to go spend $100, $200 on a jig. You can make your own. In the Marine Corps, we call this a field expedient, and as you can see, it's pretty simple. Basically, I got a hardwood crossbar, a half-inch piece of plywood, and then all I do is drill some holes in the back and let some screws stick out here at the point of a screw, and that's my pivot point. I have this spot here where the blade goes into. It'll slip right in, start cutting, works like a charm. And I didn't spend it, this is all scrap material, so I didn't spend any money at it. Anyway, the point there is you don't need a lot of expensive equipment. You can do it down and dirty, quick and easy, and you're ready to rock. So now we should go over to the bandsaw. Okay, jig's in place. You notice I put a stop here, so all I have to do is slide my jig forward until it stops there, and we're ready to start cutting. I have a 3/8 inch blade here. It's in a 14 inch Delta bandsaw. Love this thing. Wouldn't swap it for, okay, there's a few things I swap it for, but hey, it's a great bandsaw. If you find one out there, pick it up for $200 or $300, I would definitely do it if it's in good shape. Anyway, so now let's cut the circle and make some noise. Okay, more boring bits. Now I have to sand the edge. I'll show you a little bit of that and then come back when it's finished. So the edge sanding is done. At this point, if you want, you can break this sharp edge with sandpaper, or you could even use a small hand plane, a block plane, to knock that edge down and make it a little bit softer. I like to have a rounder, softer edge for this kind of a thing. It's on the table, being used all the time. Hands are going across it. So I like to have a softer edge in case they hit it or touch it. So I'm using a 1/4 inch round over bit here. This is actually a Rocker 1/4 inch round over bit and a DeWalt compact router. Let's get ourselves plugged in and start the routing. So that's really nice. Still did a little bit of hand sanding to finish up that edge. A few rough spots here and there. And I did actually burn it a little bit right there with the maple. That's not too bad. Only spot. Maple burns very easily because it has a high sugar content. You linger it all, as you can see. That's what you get. So let's finish this up with some hand sanding, and then we'll go ahead and put some finish on it. Well, I've got 3 coats on this. Rubbed it out. Last thing I'm going to do to this is going to be put a layer of paste wax on it. But before I do that, I got to finish up putting the bearing race on here. Now, you'll notice I finished the back. I've also put my name here. I suggest you guys do that too. It's always good to have your name on your things. A couple things you may not notice here. I've already pre-drilled a couple of holes so I can get my screws in. To do that, I used a VIX bit. It's a self-centering bit. Should really, guys, if you don't have a couple of these things laying around, you really should get them. They're made in America by Vicker Corporation. I'll send you a link for those too. We're going to be putting down this Chinese, sorry about that, bearing. It's an aluminum bearing. This one's a little noisy, but not too bad. Kind of endemic of aluminum bearings. They're not as silent as steel ones, but they're also lower profile, so I like the low profile thing. So we'll put this on, and I want to make sure that I have these lined up. There's rubber feet on both sides of this, so when I button it down, I have to be careful that I don't over torque it, because I can warp the ring. So bear with me for a second while I screw this puppy down. There we have it. One Lazy Susan ready to ship. Now I have to say, this has been a fun project. Very easy to do, very straightforward. Doesn't take a lot of tools, doesn't take a lot of much of anything, including wood. There's links in the bottom for the bearing, links in the bottom for some extra wood, for the VIX bit, those types of things. Guys, I definitely suggest that you give this project a try. If you do, please do me a favor and put it in the comments. I'd love to see what it is you're working on. Heck, even if you're not working on this one, throw something else up there. It's always an inspiration to see what other makers are making. So, as I said, links in the bottom. Explore those. One to my blog, one to a bunch of them to various things I've used here today. Go ahead and explore those. And hey, if you got something out of this, be sure to hit like and subscribe. It helps me out a heck of a lot. And on that note, folks, until next time, good making.